Hey, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to make pizza dough. Now, I made pizza with my son in an earlier video. You didn't get to see the pizza dough part, and I'm going to make the pizza dough today. So if you don't have a good recipe, I found this one, played around with a lot of recipes, and this is what I found works best. It's really pretty simple. There's not much that goes into pizza dough. I'm going to get some warm water, not hot. Get a cup of warm water. I don't want water that's too hot to touch or anything like that, but somewhere around 105 degrees, give or take some. We just don't want burning water because we're gonna proof our yeast. Just got some yeast I keep in the refrigerator. Now, out of all the recipes that I've tried to make pizza dough, and I've made pizza dough with, they come out really bready. And I didn't know what I was doing for a long time as far as why they were so bready. I don't want a bready crust. I want a kind of a thin crust. And I didn't know what I was doing wrong. Well, one day I decided I'd add twice the amount of yeast. So, and that worked out really good. So instead of 1 teaspoon of yeast for 2.5 cups of flour, I use 2 teaspoons of yeast. And then, I don't have my sugar out. Then I'm going to use a 2-to-1 ratio, sugar to yeast. 2 teaspoons of yeast and a 1 cup of warm water. And as I said, I'm going to use a 2-to-1 with the sugar. So I'm going to use 4 teaspoons of sugar into my warm water. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to mix that up thoroughly. Getting a good stir in there. Then I'm going to set that aside and let that start activating. So the recipe I'm using calls for 2.5 cups of flour. I've already measured them out. It's in there, you can see the shadow. 2.5 cups of flour, already measured in there. I'm going to put about 1/2 teaspoon of salt into the flour. I'm just using coarse salt. Okay, so the salt is optional, but I like to put it in there, a little bit of salt. It's not enough that it's going to make your blood pressure go up or anything. I'm just going to go ahead and mix this up. Just kind of whisk that salt in there, get a good mix on it. So you can start to see a little bit of a head forming on that mixture of yeast and sugar water. So that's basically telling me that my yeast is good. And I can let that rise for say another 5 minutes. It'll just be a little bit more expanded. It doesn't really matter, I can mix it in right now, but I'm going to go ahead and let it rise just a little bit more. So you can see the head on that has risen quite a bit, and it's only been a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and pour it in here and then start to mix them. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and get that head in there. Now I'm going to start mixing. Some people might add a little bit of oil, maybe a small teaspoon of oil or something to this. You don't need to. It'll work out pretty good. Just make sure you lubricate your pan with like some Crisco or something like that when you cook it. I'm going to get a little bit of flour on my hands. A little bit of flour on the surface here. Just putting it on my hands because I don't want it to stick to my hands. But I'm just going to continue to mix by hand and get the rest of that flour mixed into the dough. Are you okay over there, Jacob? Now you may want to add a little bit of, you may lean towards wanting to add some water here. Don't do that because your pizza dough is going to get really, really wet and hard to work with. Alright, so now we're just going to start working it, turn it, work it. Make sure you keep your surface good and floured. You end up getting really sticky dough stuck to your counter. If you've ever folded or kneaded clay or something like that, you could knead bread. It's pretty much the same process. You're getting it to mix well, getting a good consistency, and you're also taking out air bubbles. And making it more uniform as one whole piece rather than pieces stuck together. I'm just going to form our dough ball by kind of pressing up in the middle and rolling it. So there we have our dough ball right there. That should make two. Depending on how thick you make your crust, you should be able to make two fairly large pizzas, medium to large pizzas. With 2.5 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of yeast, 4 teaspoons of sugar. That's all you really need. Okay, so I'm going to take a large bowl that will allow it to rise, give it room to rise. And I'm going to spray the whole bowl all over. And I'm going to set it there and roll it around a little bit. And then I'm going to coat my dough ball. get a plastic, some kind of cover, a towel, something like that. I'm going to use this cling wrap. I'm not trying to prevent air from coming out or anything like that, but I don't want big stuff to drop in there. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for anywhere from 24, I'd say 18 to 24 hours. So I'm doing this for maybe like tomorrow or something. That's how simple it is to make pizza dough. It does take a little bit more time than going to the store and picking up a pre-made crust, but that is a lot more expensive and it doesn't taste nearly half as good. It's really not that expensive, 2.5 cups of flour. So simple pizza dough. You can make it the day before, make it early in the day, still get away with using it later that night. If you'd like to see how the rest of the pizza is made, including pressing out the dough, my son and I did a previous video on that, and I will put a card in the corner that you can click on that, and it'll take you to the video where we actually complete the pizza. So if you liked how this simple dough went together and you want more things like this, please subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you'll know the next time that I post a video and giving you more recipes like this. Thanks. And we'll see you next time at the MCH Kitchen.